Talk to us first, Christian, about what you want out of this year. How do you want to take this from a global perspective around AI?
Well, you know, this year is our 5th year of doing the Hill and Valley Forum.
It's 5th?
It's the 5th. It started as a small dinner in 2022 during the Biden administration, and it's obviously grown to become one of the largest, if not the largest, gatherings of DC and tech leaders. I think this year is very special because it's obviously happening during the 250th anniversary for the country. And I also think this year will be a little bit unique in that we're really focused not just on technological leadership, which is the underpinning, but industrial leadership, which has been a huge focus in this administration, and then also alliance leadership. And so you'll actually have leaders there from other countries, from within NATO, and I think that's going to be a big difference, is the global scale of everyone's focus on building deeper bridges between technology and government.
What's been really interesting is how the vibe has shifted. When it was private dinners, then it was these now third sort of in-public event, Delian, that now the Hill and the Valley are so much closer. I'm interested as to how you keep that contrarian perspective, how you get different voices around a table of how this can be done from an industrial, from a tech perspective right now.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of intentionality. I think one of the things that's been exciting to see as a shift is rather than just having discussions, this year you're going to see us actually release a set of different policy papers across different sort of industrial areas, whether that's in rare earths. There's going to be a set around biotech versus China and making sure that we don't lose that supply chain to them, as well as reindustrialization. And a lot of it is in the sort of conversations ahead of the forum with both technology leaders, leaders within the government, regulators, to understand the different perspectives and come in and align on something that actually is like a material product that we're trying to actually use to go shift how a particular industry works.
Christian, thanks for coming on the show. It's going to be interesting to hear about what your objectives are here, right? Think back to last July, winning the AI Race Summit. The president took specific action. And what's interesting about the Hill and Valley Forum is it's industry and DC, right? That, there will be politicians and policymakers there. Do you have a goal or something that you'd want to achieve? Like, what is the next action that you and your peers feel this administration needs to take, and in which domain?
I think that's a great question. For us, the fundamental goal is creating an environment for there to be a rebuilding of these bridges. That was kind of the goal from the beginning, and it still remains that. So I think first and foremost is gathering everyone together and having these open discussions, and most importantly, actually gathering people from different backgrounds. You'll see actually, Vinod Khosla, who's spoken every single year and is attending this year, has very different views on certain regulatory opportunities or certain industrial opportunities than maybe you'll have from another partner at another firm. Maybe you'll have, obviously, every year we've had OpenAI and Anthropic speak, who are competitors, but in this case, they're both aligned on the importance of technological leadership in AI. So I think first and foremost, it's gathering everyone together. We don't per se take goals or things that we think about. We really want to create the stage for there to be open debate and have a rare opportunity for there to be unity. We use the term bipartisan, but I think actually this is something that's just nonpartisan. Everyone believes across the aisle in the importance of making sure that the U.S. has technological, industrial, and economic leadership, and that is important for national security as well. And that is how we can create opportunity. And then everything else is a great forum really to have discussion and debate around.
Del, bipartisan initiative, right? But if you're being honest and you think back 5 years ago, you guys might have felt like you were probably outsiders in DC. I don't know if that's fair, but present day, how are things different in the way that the administration and the apparatus of DC works with the technology industry? And how would you reflect on progress that you think you've made?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at the sort of peak divide between the two sort of communities, that Maven program within Google, and I think it was 2016-17, people within Silicon Valley did not want to be working at all, basically with the government. Now, obviously, look at us a decade later, you have folks that actually have deep technological, sort of backgrounds, both as elected officials and within, appointed officials. So J.D. Vance, obviously being, sort of a former venture capitalist, Steven Feinberg, Emil Michael, Jim O'Neill, leaders basically, across the entire administration that bring that technological leadership. And so, yeah, obviously, at this point, when we look at the Hill and Valley Forum and some of the elected officials that are speaking, it's no longer folks with just a political background, but it's folks that have a strong technological background and obviously are now in the sort of political ecosystem. And so it is very merged, but we want to make sure that we're going to continue to keep this because the Hill and Valley Forum, it was founded under the Biden administration. In 2029, we want to make sure that irrespective of who is president, it still is a place where we can continue to maintain those ties, no matter which president is in office.
And those ties, or indeed reliance, on some of the companies that you have backed have become ever more important in this geopolitical context. You think of Anduril, that both of you in, we think about SpaceX, which everyone's very excited about potential IPO of this year. Will they inherently deepen, do you think, Christian, at the moment? And will they deepen with other countries as well? How much more are we seeing countries in Europe still wanting to rely on an Anduril, or are you worried about that from a geopolitical perspective?
I think that, one, in the U.S. or domestically, you will continue to see these relationships deepen. And really, this is not anything new. You know, the United States used to practice statecraft. The United States used to invest heavily in industry. The United States also, for example, was a key driver in the creation of the Silicon Valley industry, right? It was the Cold War era funding, whether it was grants through research in universities or whether it was government contracts in the early days, really helped build Silicon Valley in California. And then that has obviously expanded to a global tech industry. And so I think the same trend is happening abroad, where you're seeing governments want to partner deeper with their technological sector. But in regards to governments and how they partner with each other, what we've seen is actually a focus on technology has been a key factor for that. If you look at initiatives like Pax Silica or various other initiatives, they're centered around industrial and technological partnership. And so I think United States companies will play a big role in how the U.S. and our allies work together. And I think the same way we want to see successful companies in Europe, in the Middle East, in Japan and South Korea play a big role in how they also partner with the U.S. too. So I think at the forum, you'll see leaders from companies across the globe, not just U.S. companies, and that's something that we're very excited about.
You know, we can discuss this March 24th. We hope to be there, guys. But the president's changed how space is funded, right? OSTP now has a role. Del, we're going to run out of time, but a big milestone day for Varda. We're showing this image here. Just explain what we're looking at, please.
Yeah, so this is Varda's fifth vehicle that we sent up to orbit. We build these 300-kilogram satellites that basically manufacture pharmaceuticals in the microgravity environment of low Earth orbit and then bring those back down. What you're seeing here is a vehicle that re-entered at Mach 25 in South Australia and landed earlier this morning. Right now, it's actually nighttime in Australia, so we'll be, sort of picking it up from the desert once, daylight hits. But we're super, happy this is our successful, sort of fourth landing, and we've got a sixth vehicle that's going up into orbit in about a month and a half. And so, taking what was an initial demonstration in 2024, doing this very regularly. And a part of it is, I think, enabled by, some of the groups within OSTP that have made it so that the regulations around space are starting to become more centralized, more streamlined. We used to have to go to almost like 6 different agencies in order to be able to figure out basically how to operate a vehicle like this versus the administration's new space policy starting to understand, okay, space companies can't have to go after that many different agencies.